Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome to another episode of Bet on Sports. Today we are continuing on with our NFL weekly predictions episode. And with that, it means we are on week 8. Week 8 of predictions. Crazy how fast the NFL season is going. I can't believe it. It's unfortunate that it feels like it's halfway through, at least the regular season, but we're still enjoying it. So we're going to move on here, or not move on, but let's go ahead and jump into the Week 7 review before we get into the Week 8 predictions. Here we go. First off, our first game, Thursday Night Football. Saints and Broncos. Saints are without Derek Carr. Their season, after a great start, 2-0, dropping a whole bunch of points, their season's going to crap. Seeing rumors that they might trade Alvin Kamara. They are incredibly over the cap next season. I know they have in the last couple seasons, and they've worked their way around it. But it might be time for the Saints, especially because it looks like Derek Carr is going to keep missing time, to just say maybe this core doesn't have it, blow it up, and try and get whatever you can back, get under the salary cap, and maybe do an expedited rebuild or try and make it a retooling. Saints not looking good. Broncos picked up a big win. They're in the playoffs right now, so that's really good for them, but I don't know how much this win actually says about the Broncos as a team, because the Saints don't seem like they really have it right now and might not be very good. But it was a good win by a lot of points. Sean Payton's return to New Orleans. It was never really a game. Who did I pick? I did pick the Broncos to win this one. Moving on, London, Jaguars and Patriots. Drake May start number 2. It was a great game out of Drake May. He looked good, even though the offense only scored 16. Wasn't really his fault. The Patriots defense is starting to kind of look worse, I think, in a couple ways. It's getting worse as the season goes on. Jaguars dropped 32. I think that's their highest scoring game of the season. Offense looked better. Made a couple of big plays. Jaguars pick up their second win of the season. I want to say that it doesn't really help them that much and that their season is still dead, but I don't think it is. I mean, the AFC playoff picture is A, it's super early, but B, the AFC playoff picture is kind of crazy. And we saw last year how hot Jacksonville can get and how many games in a row they can win. So maybe they're not out of it. It's definitely going to take a couple more good games from Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson working together. Yeah, and Drake May looks good for the Patriots, but that might be one of the only things they have going for them as a franchise right now. Also, before we reveal who I picked, I would also like to say, I think I said it on draft night on Twitter. I can't remember, but I want to go ahead and get it on the books right now, just for anybody who doesn't know or anybody who hasn't heard me say it. Drake May is the best quarterback out of this draft class. He was one of the younger ones, him and Caleb Williams, but I think he's going to be the best quarterback out of this draft class. Better than Caleb Williams, better than Jaden Daniels, the two guys before him, despite how those guys may have looked. Drake May, I think, is going to be the best quarterback in this draft class. Anyway, who did I pick? I did pick the Jaguars. We stay undefeated on the week. Moving on to the next game, the Falcons got blown out at home by the Seahawks. The Seahawks badly needed a win. They were on a 3-game losing streak. This win put this game, I should say, put both teams at 4-3. The Falcons, I just feel like can't get that much over 500. Falcons, I still don't think have played their best game as a team. I still think they have too much talent to continue to be around 500. Seahawks defense played better. Offense looked really, really good, obviously. But I do think they're dealing with some injuries, so we'll see how that works out for them. But they're still first place in their division. That's all that matters at this point. They just need to keep winning games. This was an excellent performance from them, a bad performance by the Falcons. And I did pick the Falcons to win, so this will be my first loss of the week, putting me at 2-1. Moving on here, we have the Bills and the Titans. Not a whole lot to say here. Amari Cooper, big trade for the Bills, scored his first touchdown for the Bills this week. It was close early. The Titans jumped out to an early lead. They were playing tough. They were playing close. And then the Bills exerted their will, showed how good they were, and won by 24 in the end at home. I think this is kind of what everybody expected. The Titans are one of the 2 or 3 worst teams in the league. The Bills think they're Super Bowl contenders. They are Super Bowl contenders. They're a very good team. Still a couple of question marks around their defense, but nonetheless, Bills with a big win, even if they started slow. This game was what everybody expected it to be, what it should have been. Who did I pick? I picked the Bills, putting me at 3-1 for the week. We are moving on to the next game, the Browns and the Bengals. Jameis Winston out for the season is the biggest headline here, and despite that, or not Jameis Winston, Deshaun Watson is out for the season. I kind of buried the lead, or not buried the lead, but I kind of spoiled it. The guy I wanted to talk about, but we'll loop back around to Jameis Winston. The Bengals, I mean, you can argue probably should have won this game by 7 points if they're who they think they are. It was in Cleveland in a rivalry game, so they do. Cleveland, for some reason, plays everybody in their division close. Even when they were bad, it felt like they were playing everybody close. I guess they are still bad, but I'm thinking like pre-playoffs Browns, like pre-Baker Mayfield Browns. Browns only lost by 7. They now have a new quarterback in Jameis Winston. At least I think it should be Jameis Winston. I know they're kind of making some moves. Jameis Winston deserves another chance to start in the NFL. Nick Chubb is back. He had a touchdown. And I think the Browns might have gotten better with Jameis Winston. Even if he's 30 touchdown, 30 interception, Jameis Winston, that he was, obviously doesn't have time to throw for that, but I just mean, I think he makes the Browns better, even if he turns it over just as much as he scores touchdowns, because at least he'll be scoring touchdowns, which has not been, the Browns are the only team in the league to not hit 20 in a game this season. So that tells you how desperately they need points, even if they come at some turnovers. I know there's not a lot of great weapons at receiver, but a pretty good running back room, and Nick Chubb is healthy. I think the Browns will find a way to score points, and I think that in the end it'll be better for their team. For the Bengals, got to win over a divisional opponent, a rival. 7 points doesn't matter. You're like, I don't really know how I feel about the Bengals. They're 3-4. They're on a 2-game winning streak, but I don't know how good or bad I think they might be. They're kind of tough to read. They're definitely a team to me that plays down the competition and plays up to competition, and that's not always a good sign from a playoff contender. But nonetheless, they're firmly right there in the mix of things. Moving on. Oh, my bad. I did pick the Bengals to win that game. Moving on. Packers and Texans, and what I had as one of my games of the week. And boy, did it live up to it. It was close the whole way through. It was won on a last-second field goal. Packers win it at home in Lambeau against the Texans. C.J. Stroud saw a little bit too much pressure, I think. Both Jordan Love threw turned the ball over a couple times. Battle of young quarterbacks, but I think both of these teams are going to be okay. Both of these teams, I think, are definitely firmly in the playoff picture. They should both make the playoffs. I just thought it was a really good game. I don't have much else to say. I think there's definitely some things both offenses can clean up. I think both defenses played well. And both of these teams are coming out relatively healthy, which might be the most important thing. Again, Texans, I was a little bit worried about them coming into the season because it was definitely a step up in competition. They finished first, so they're going to have a harder schedule. They're just going to have a harder schedule in general. And so far, they've played pretty well. 5-2, 4-2 on the season. And they really seem to me to have stepped up to the challenge. I mean, they beat the Bills this season. Even in some of their losses, it's been razor thin, like this one, losing it at the last second. So the Texans might be a team to keep the eye on, even without Nico Collins. Like, I know that I said they're healthy, relatively. Even without Nico Collins, they still have a lot of weapons at wide receiver, and I still think eventually this offense is going to have a breakout game where C.J. Stroud throws for 450 and 4 touchdowns. And again, for the Packers, I mean, Jordan Love, you made it through with Malik Willis. Now Jordan Love is back and winning games. I think they're only going to get better, just like they did last year. Who did I pick to win? I did pick the Packers to win at home. Still only 1 loss on the week, and we are moving on to the Colts and Dolphins. Oh, man. The Colts are somehow in the playoffs right now. I don't think it's going to stay that way. They did not look good. In my opinion, they did not look good this week. They won. Anthony Richardson doesn't look good. That team is definitely better with Joe Flacco under center. And the Colts are 4-3, though. This is a game that I do feel like the Dolphins should have won. I was stuck watching it, and the Dolphins had opportunity after opportunity. I think the Dolphins in so many games this year, just like this one, they've lost, but they've outgained their opponent significantly. They really, really had the run game working. They have a great trio of backs. I do think eventually Miami, you have to let Jalen Wright, the rookie you traded up to get, he has to get more touches because he looks like he might be a really good running back. Also, if you're in fantasy football, he's probably available in most leagues. I would just consider giving him a look. That's all. But this is the game the Dolphins should have won and needed to win. If the Dolphins win this game, they would have been at 3-3. Tua's coming back. They might have been in the playoffs. They would have been right into the thick of things. And I guess they're not completely out. I was looking at their schedule. They can make a run, but it gets difficult when you're 2-4. But they're getting Tua back next week, and the Dolphins are going to need to work some magic with Tua. But again, the Dolphins, 2 turnovers, a missed field goal. 2 turnovers, I might add, when they're in good field position. One of them in the red zone. They just left a lot of points on the board. I think this is more of a game the Dolphins lost it than the Colts won it. Yet again, I think this is the 3rd or 4th time I said it on the podcast. Dolphins failed to get a good backup quarterback. The defense is playing phenomenal. If Tua's healthy in this game, Miami probably wins by 3 touchdowns. But Tua's not healthy. I've said it multiple times, but he should be coming back this week. So maybe we'll preview that matchup. Neither one of these teams played very well in this game. It was an ugly game to watch. Colts get the win. The Dolphins lose. Who did I pick? I did pick the Colts to win it at home. Moving on to the next game, we have what might have been the game of the week after watching all of them, the Vikings and the Lions. Lions, another team with a late field goal to win it by 2 points. And the Vikings picked up their first loss. The Lions take over first place in the division and in the conference. Lions are looking really, really good. The Vikings didn't play bad. I'm seeing some rumors about them getting Matthew Stafford, which is interesting. He's a Super Bowl winning quarterback, has experience, knows this division. But Darnold hasn't played bad. I don't think I think he's been playing average, slightly above average. There's still weapons on this offense. I think Stafford would be an upgrade, and that could make the Vikings really, really scary, in my opinion. But the Vikings played a close game at home, lost it. Lions, they might be a top 3 team. The Lions, I think, are the best team in the NFC, not might be the best team in the NFC. With everything we've seen so far, you can't call anybody else the best team in that conference. Makes the Lions one of the favorites to make the Super Bowl. Unfortunately for the Lions, I think there's at least 2 teams better than them in the AFC, but they're in the NFC, so that could provide them with an easier path to the Super Bowl. Great win by the Lions. Who did I pick? I did pick the Lions to beat the Vikings and give them their first loss. Moving on, the New York Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles. Not a lot to say about this game. The Eagles handled their business in a way they should have on the road. Saquon Barkley's return to MetLife Stadium. Giants have been playing some perceived better teams a little bit closer. I thought this game could be a little bit closer than this, but in the end, the Eagles told everybody, we are still a much better team than the Giants. We're still a playoff caliber team, and we're going to beat the Giants by a lot of points in a rivalry game to show you just how good we are. Because the Eagles have been playing down to some competition this year, in my opinion, but nonetheless, pretty good game from the Eagles. Anytime you win by 25, it can't be a bad day. Offense scored some points and looked better. Giants, not good. Sometimes they play well defensively and it keeps games close, but they definitely don't have a great offense there. And Dable could be running out of time. Who did I pick? I did pick the Eagles, and we are going to move on to the next game. The Rams and the Raiders, a battle of 2 teams that are not very good. This was almost my toilet bowl game of the week. It was not last week, but it almost was. And Raiders and Rams are both banged up, a lot of injuries. This was 2 teams that might be the first 2 teams to give up on the season. Rams got an ugly win at home by 5 points. If only the Raiders could score touchdowns, maybe they would have had a chance. Again, I think that even though both teams are 2 wins, one's 2-4, one's 2-5, it's just you hear a lot of rumors about or the Raiders have already traded Devontae Adams. You hear rumors about maybe Max Crosby being available and some of these other guys. The Rams, on the other side, you hear rumors about Stafford. You hear rumors about Kupp. So I think both of these teams are kind of like, maybe we're not able to compete right now. Maybe we're going to give up on the season, trade some guys, free up some calories, some salary cap space, get some draft picks. So that it seems like both of these teams, that's kind of where they're at this season. They might not be important in terms of playoff picture the rest of the year. Nonetheless, the Rams got their second win, which, funny enough, they're only really 2 games out of first place. So kind of might be an interesting season to blow it up. But the 49ers and Cardinals right in front of them are 3-4, and the Seahawks are 4-3, and they're only 2-4. So they're not that far out of first place. But at the same time, if you don't feel like you can compete, you don't feel like you can compete. I did pick the Rams to win this game in a battle of West Coast teams. And we are going to move on to the next game. The Commanders and the Panthers. Not a whole lot to say here. The Panthers are really bad. The Commanders' offense has been really, really good. The defense looked good here. Not that the Panthers' offense is great. And the Commanders at home just absolutely demolished the Panthers, just like they should. I think this, in a way, helps prove that they might be for real as a team because of the absolute dismantling of a bad team. That's usually a good sign. And so not a whole lot else to say. Panthers trying to get the first draft pick, I guess, this year. They're in a battle with a couple of other one-win teams. Commanders still first place in their division, chugging along. Maybe they are the real deal. I was apprehensive at first, but they played the Ravens well last week, and they're still winning games that they're supposed to win. And they're actually starting to blow teams out. So good signs if you're a Commanders fan. Who did I pick to win? It's kind of hard not to pick the Commanders to win this game. We are going to move on to the next game. The 49ers and the Chiefs, a rematch of last year's Super Bowl. And man, did both quarterbacks lay a dud. Neither quarterback played well. Purdy, multiple interceptions. Mahomes, multiple interceptions. Neither one of them hit 200 yards passing. So it was an ugly game from a passing standpoint. Chiefs win by 10 on the road. And now the Chiefs have also added a wide receiver in DeAndre Hopkins. Maybe that's supposed to help Mahomes throw the ball. Mahomes not having a good season this year, not being talked about enough, not having a great season. I would say so far this has been the worst season of his professional career, other than, the season he sat out. And the 49ers still dealing with so many injuries. They have to get it figured out eventually. The 49ers can't just keep shuffling their feet and kind of be a 500 team. Eventually, for them to get where they want to be, they're going to have to turn it on eventually. And if you're a 49ers fan or you want to see some good football from them, you're going to hope you're hoping that sooner rather than later. And it's going to need to be. I thought this was a game what might have been a little bit more competitive. I thought the 49ers offense might do a little bit better than it did. It did not. And because of that, the Chiefs won the Super Bowl rematch. I did pick the 49ers to win. I thought the 49ers were going to be ready for this game, get gassed up. Deebo Samuel didn't play. Brandon Ayuk is now out for the year. Kittle questionable. McCaffrey out. You're really starting to worry now about some of the 49ers' big-time offensive weapons. Moving on, we have the Steelers and the Jets. I guess I need to not doubt the Steelers. Mike Tomlin is a really, really good coach for a reason. The Jets are not a very good team. They're 2-5, and I think that's just where they're going to stay. I'll spoil it. I did pick the Jets, and I don't know why. I went on a Twitter rant on ESPN. This is why I need to follow on Twitter so you can see. But I went on a Twitter rant on ESPN talking about the Jets and saying they were Super Bowl contenders, and I was very critical of that assessment. You heard me in the first episode talk about how I don't think the Jets are real. I don't think they are real Super Bowl contenders. And here we are. They're 2-5, third place, behind the struggling Miami Dolphins without their starting quarterback. The Dolphins have a better record than the Jets do in that division. And the Steelers absolutely blew the Jets out. And I know the Steelers have a great offense, but Aaron Rodgers has all of his buddies. He has Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Devontae Adams, Allen Lazard, Braylon Allen. He has a loaded offense and could only score 15 points. The Jets' defense is supposed to be good, although I guess they're DJ Reed and Ahmad Sauce Gardner. They're supposedly really good corners. They're finally getting whistled now for holding. It only took the league 2 years to catch up. Maybe I'm a Jets hater. Overrated team, it seems, and the Steelers, the Jets shouldn't be losing 37-15 really to anybody, especially the way the Steelers team is built. Great coaching job by Mike Tomlin. Steelers pick up a big win, and maybe part of this is I'm upset because for some reason, even though I doubt the Jets, I picked them to win. This is the third loss of the week. Moving on to Monday Night Football. Buccaneers and Ravens in a high-scoring affair. The Ravens won. I do think the score looks a little bit better than how close the game was. The Ravens were up big early and pretty much dominated the whole way. Buccaneers got a couple of late scores to make it look better. Buccaneers aren't a bad team, but this is kind of what I was saying last week with them. They're not a bad team, but they're not a top-tier team. They're a playoff leader. They can win their division, but they're not a Super Bowl contender. And the Ravens just showed the Buccaneers what a Super Bowl contender is, which is funny because I was just talking about the Lions, and the Lions probably are a Super Bowl contender, and the Buccaneers beat them, but that was early on in the season. The teams are figuring themselves out. They're established. I'm worried about the Buccaneers long-term. They're not going to have Evans or Godwin, so who do they throw the ball to? That'll be interesting to watch, but the Ravens are a wagon, and I don't do power rankings for the NFL, but if I did, I'd strongly be considering them putting them one, even though the Chiefs are undefeated and with a win over the Ravens. Right now, based off the eye test, the Ravens certainly look like the best team in the NFL. Who did I pick? I did pick the Ravens to win on Monday night. This brings us to our last game, the Cardinals and the Chargers. I said this was a toss-up game. I was struggling with it, and you can see why. Another game that was close the whole way through, and the Cardinals won it on a last-second field goal, late field goal. Chargers defense looks really, really good. At some point, I think they have to get the offense going a little bit better. They did have a lot of yards. Herbert had a pretty good game. There's no touchdowns, I don't think. Again, I mean, these two teams I think are kind of similar in some ways with how good they are. I don't think either of them are Super Bowl contenders. I think they're wild card contenders at best. I honestly think both teams might be better suited to, even though they can make the wild card, to try and get a higher draft pick and build, and then next year they could both be really good. Kyler Murray has the Cardinals offense doing enough. And I say that enough. I think the Cardinals offense is the best part of their team. I think it's the defense that, if they're going to lose games, is going to be what lets them down. This was a weird game time, 9 o'clock on a Monday. I'm sure the West Coast was up for it, but most of the East Coast probably didn't care about this game, especially with how late it was ending. Good win by the Cardinals to stay in the hunt. Again, they're tied for second in their division, right behind the Seahawks. I guess they're in the wild card hunt. Maybe not. I mean, right now the Bears are in it at 4-2. That's the last seed in the NFC, so we'll see about that. But again, good win by the Cardinals, and the Chargers. They're building. I guess that's all I have to say. Harbaugh's a good coach. They're gonna keep playing a lot of teams close. Who did I pick to win? I did pick the Cardinals to win, which means our weekly records. Another great week. I backed up the 12-2 week 6 with a 12-3 week 7. I told you we were going to heat up earlier this year, and boy, have we ever. We're heat up back-to-back 12-win weeks. We are now a whopping 29 games over 500, 68-39. All I can say is I hope the hot streak continues. I had 4 500, slightly above 500 weeks. I've had a really good week 1, and now I have 2 really good weeks back to back. It would only be fair if I keep the hot streak going and get my 4th 12-win week of the season, considering I've had 4 kind of meh average weeks. It would only be fair to have 4 really good weeks. Maybe my goal of 30 games over 500 was too low. I'm hanging out at 29, and after week 7, maybe I need to push for 50 or 60. Let me know in the comments where you guys think I should set my goal out. I want everybody, all the regular listeners, even if you're a first-time listener, go to the comment section and say, how many games over 500 should I be at the end of the regular season? Because I put the goal at 30, and we're at 29. Now, obviously, I could have a bad week, but as long as I'm over 500, I'm hitting that goal this week. So give me some updated goals from you guys. And yeah, I hope the hot streak keeps going. That's all I can really say. Let's move on to week 8 now that we have recapped week 7. Week 8 symbols, if you need to look at them, they're the same as they've been every week. I've been keeping them the same. Maybe we have some to add. Maybe you guys want to see me add some. If there's a symbol or a type of game you want to see me add to this, or you want to see talked about, give suggestions on, well, I was going to say on Twitter, but really put it in the comments. I do check the comments on my videos. So any suggestions you guys have, anything you want to see about the symbols, go ahead and put them in the comment section. I'm not going to really go over these symbols because we've been going over them so long, and you guys can pause it and read it if you need to see it. All right, so first game, Thursday Night Football. Rams and Vikings, two teams heading in opposite trajectories. The Vikings need a rebound game. Another loss isn't going to kill them, but they want to keep pace in division. This is a game they can't lose, even if it is on the road Thursday Night Football. Playing against the Rams, who we kind of talked about earlier, I think they who knows, Matt Stafford might be a Viking by the end of this week. So that'll be something interesting to watch. I don't think it's going to happen now because I think if a trade's going to happen, it probably happens never mind. Matthew Stafford may be on the Vikings by the end of this week. That's really all I have to say, I guess. But yeah, Vikings been playing really well this season. Rams haven't. Vikings coming off a loss. They're not going to want to lose 2 in a row, especially to a team they probably think they're better than in the Rams. One good team, one bad team. I think this is kind of easy. I think we're going to go with the Vikings. Dolphins looking to rebound. If they lose this game, they're going to be put in a really, really bad spot. They believe they're playoff contenders, maybe even Super Bowl contenders, and they're sitting at 2-4 after Tua went down. Oh boy. Cardinals have had some really good games, some really not so good games, traveling to the East Coast for a 1:00 game. Again, Kyler Murray and the Cardinals, pretty good offense. The defense I worry about sometimes. Miami's defense has been really, really good, kind of regardless of who they've played. Sometimes they get a little bit worn out late in the fourth quarter, but that's what's going to happen when your offense is horrible with your third and fourth and second string quarterbacks. With Tua back and them taking more time off the clock, holding the ball a little bit more, scoring more points, I think the defense that's already good is going to be even better. I think Miami wins this game. I'm not going to say Tua is going to go off this game. I remember last time he came back from concussion against the Steelers, he had an okay game. It was better than what they were getting, but it wasn't his best capability. So, maybe this game is a little bit low scoring, but if for whatever reason Tua does come back and he's immediately ready to go, super motivated, which is always a possibility. At his press conference, he sounded like he was ready to go. But if he comes back at 100%, the way Miami has been able to run the ball lately, he'll be able to get the ball to the receivers. Miami could score a lot of points in this game, just like the Commanders did against the Cardinals. And the Cardinals, I think Miami's defense is good enough to hold Arizona's offense down, but there is a world where this becomes a really, really fun and entertaining shootout. Regardless, I think Miami has more ways to win this game than the Cardinals do. I hope that makes sense to you listeners and viewers out there. So in the end, I'm going to pick Miami to win this game. Patriots and Jets, 3rd and 4th in the AFC East. Jets not looking very good. I didn't even give them a rebound. Everybody knows they need a rebound, and I try only give rebounds to teams that aren't trying to be bad, or rebounds to teams I think have a shot at the playoffs. And I don't know if the Jets do anymore. They've lost a lot of games that they probably should have won. They're 2-5, 3 games under 500. I don't know if I see it for them. The Patriots, I think you just want Drake May to stay healthy in this game. You're a little bit worried because the Jets do have a pretty good defense. You worry if that might confuse and trip up Drake May. And for the Patriots, that's all you're really in it for right now. Hopefully your defense starts playing better. If the defense is playing better, the Patriots might be able to knock the Jets off at home here. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Jets are going to win. But regardless, there's not a lot of great options for Toilet Bowl Game of the Week. And I'm going to give it to this game because I believe that this is the game this week that has the lowest winning percentage of the two combined teams. Jets way underperforming. The Patriots are supposed to be bad. And this just screams ugly game. Maybe the Jets even get going and blow the Patriots out, and that's still probably not a game you want to watch unless you're a Jets fan. So if you're going to miss a game this week, this is probably the game. It's just, I don't think it's going to be very good. I don't see really any situation that it is, unless you want to watch for Drake May or a Jets fan that think they might get back on track here. I don't know. Again, I think the Jets are going to win. I'm not going to be watching. Here you go. You see the star. So we have our first of our top 5 games of the week. The Bengals and the Eagles, 2 teams that have had Super Bowl runs within the last couple of years. Bengals led by Joe Burrow. Eagles led by Jalen Hurts. I really have been wanting to pick the Bengals. I've been saying the Bengals are going to win all week, but I did some research. They have a lot of common opponents that the Eagles largely have handled better. The Eagles are playing a little bit better right now. The only place I think the Bengals are really winning is at quarterback. Burrow's better than Hurts. He's been playing better than Hurts. I think the Eagles' defense is better. I think the Eagles have a better run game, a better running back, a little bit better offensive line. And because of that, I just think the Eagles are going to be able to overcome and win this game. I do think it's going to be tight. Like I said, the Bengals play bad and they play down the team sometimes, but they also play up to the good teams usually. I think they're going to be ready for this challenge at home. This is really a game I think the Bengals can win. And like I said, I almost wanted to pick them, but I think the Eagles are playing better coming in. I think they're the better team, so I'm going to go with the Eagles. But this might be like one of the best games to watch this week. This is definitely, in my opinion, probably the hardest game this week to pick. Anyway, like I said, I did change my mind and go with the Eagles. Moving on, we have the Jaguars and Packers. Jaguars picked up their second win last week, got back on track a little bit. Jaguars aren't, I don't think they're horrible, but I think they've lost a game to a team they shouldn't have. They've played a lot of good teams so far. And I think the Packers are just better. I mean, really, that's really the reality of the situation. Jaguars passing defense, I'm not thrilled with. And if there's any team that's prepared to beat a bad pass defense, it's the Packers. I think the Packers win this one somewhere between like 7 and like 17. Maybe that's a big range. I think it's a 1 or 2 possession game. Maybe that's really what I should say. I think the Jaguars hang around for a little bit, but eventually the Packers are going to overwhelm them and be too much. Next game, the Lions and the Titans. Not not a lot to say here. This might be, I think the Lions might be the most heavily favored team this week. They're at home against arguably the worst team in the NFL. They're right there with the Panthers. The Lions are a good team. They had coming off of a big win. Maybe there's a world, because they're coming off a big win, where they start slow like the Bills did against the Titans, because the Titans are a tougher team. They will. But I don't see that happening with a Dan Campbell coach team. I think he's going to have them ready to go. I think the Lions are going to want to come out and blow this team out and try and take a quarter off at the end, take the fourth quarter off, blow them out. Lions might try and drop 50. Who knows? I think this is an ugly game. I think it's over by halftime probably, and I think the Lions are going to pick up the win. Not a whole lot to be excited for if you're a Tennessee fan. I don't even know if you like Will Levis anymore. Rudolph has looked better. So I don't know what the Titans have to be happy about, other than their coach usually seems like he has the team ready to play, but a good coach can only do so much with really not a lot of talent. Moving on. 2 teams that need a rebound, 2 teams that they're really tied at the top of their division, but the Falcons have a head-to-head win, which is why I have them listed as first over the Buccaneers. This is going to be a top 5 game of the week. At least to me it is. Last time these 2 teams got together, it was a high-scoring, electric game. And I think this one could be very similar. I think this is a game that the Buccaneers win. Although I love the Falcons. Falcons, I think, have a better defense. Their offense is not consistent as the Buccaneers. And now that I think about it, the Buccaneers are without their 2 best wide receivers that had big games last time. I don't know. Both of these teams desperately need a rebound. I'm going to stick with the Buccaneers. I'm going to stick with the Buccaneers at home just based off of the fact that neither one of these teams played great last week, but the Buccaneers played a little bit better against a better team. I don't love it. I definitely am scared of picking the Bucs because I think their offense could struggle in their first game without their two big wide receivers. I think the Buccaneers will figure it out. This one, I don't know if it's going to be as high scoring. If it's high scoring, it probably means the Falcons win, but I'm going to stick to my guns. I originally picked the Bucs. I'm going to stay with the Bucs. This is going to be a really entertaining game. I highly recommend tuning in if you're able to. This is going to be for first place. And if the Falcons win, not only are they in first place by a game, but they will also have won both games against the Buccaneers, giving them the tiebreaker. So instead of being one game up, it's really like they're 2 games up. Excuse me. But yeah, I'm going to lean Bucs just because I feel like this game is a little bit more must win for the Bucs than the Falcons. Although both teams are coming off of difficult losses, so we'll see. Moving on. Browns and Ravens. Sorry, I don't know what's happening. Maybe I'm starting to get a cold. Who knows? Just an excuse to stay inside and watch football all day Sunday, right? Browns and Ravens. Ravens, much better team. Record shows it. Performance on the field has shown it. Ravens are a wagon. I do think they win this game. I do think the Browns maybe play a little bit better than people realize. I truthfully think Jameis Winston's going to have that team a little bit better. The offense better than Deshaun Watson. They are playing a really good defense. Nick Chubb is back for the Browns. That's a huge plus. And for those of you who do not know, the Browns have a history of playing the Ravens close. 5 out of the last 6 years, they've split the season series with Baltimore, and there's been a heck of a lot of close games. Like I mentioned about last week's game with the Bengals, the Browns play divisional opponents well, especially in Cleveland. This division is pretty crazy. The AFC North is always one of the most fun divisions to watch. I think the Browns are going to keep this a lot closer than people realize just based on history and there's not a whole lot of tape on Jameis Winston leading the Browns offense. But I'm going to go with the Ravens. I just think they're going to be too good. They have way too much talent. They're much better than the Browns. And I think the Ravens are going to win this game. Like I said, going to be closer than I think a lot of people think it is. But Ravens should and will still win. Moving on, the Texans and the Colts. Texans win this game. It's similar to the Falcons and Buccaneers game. First and second in the division, the Texans already have a win over the Colts this year. And they have a game. So if the Texans win, they'll be 2 games up with the head-to-head tiebreaker over the Colts. Texans looking to rebound after a tough loss last week. And I think they will. The Colts offense has not looked good under Anthony Richardson, in my opinion. I think he still has a lot to learn as a quarterback. I think he's still working through it. And I think the Texans' first meeting between these two teams was pretty close the whole way through. I don't think this game is as close, especially at home in Houston. I think Houston probably scores a good amount of points. They're definitely going to be in the 20s. There's, I think, a very real possibility they hit the 30s. Their defense has been pretty good this season. They're going to hold the Colts down. Texans, not only that, the Colts have one of the worst run defenses in the NFL, if not the worst. It stayed that way this week. Texans can run the ball. They'll be able to throw the ball off of that. I don't know if this game is going to be close. I don't think the Colts are actually 4-3 good. Their offense has been average to slightly below average this year. Their defense has been horrible. It's honestly crazy they're 4-3. If you're a Colts fan, maybe that's to be expected, though, right? Like, you maybe weren't expecting to win. You just care about the development of Anthony Richardson. It does look like the Colts might get Jonathan Taylor back. Maybe that helps them a little bit. But still, I don't know if this game is going to be entirely close. Maybe it's like around 10 points. Maybe it's closer to 17, which is where I'm leaning right now. But Texans for the win and the stranglehold on their division. Moving on. Chargers and Saints. Chargers need a rebound. They're in the thick of it in terms of the wild card race. I don't know if they're going to be there at the end of the year, but Harbaugh hasn't playing well. Derek Carr looks like he's out. Again, I think the season is going down the drain for the Saints just because of injuries and some developments. 5-game losing streak. I think it becomes 6 here. Chargers at home. Not that always means anything for them and their fan base. But without Derek Carr, there's no way that the Saints can move this ball effectively and consistently against this Chargers defense. I think the Chargers might be able to just run the ball. And I mean, the Chargers, like I said it when they played each other a couple weeks ago, I think the Chargers and Broncos are very similar teams. And because of that, I think the Chargers-Saints result could be very similar to what the Saints-Broncos result was. I think the Chargers are going to be able to run the ball really well. They're going to play really good defense, play the ball control game, and I think they're going to win by a couple possessions. If Derek Carr is healthy, I think the Saints get in front. I think the Saints can put up a better fight, but he's not going to be healthy for this game. I'm going to pick the Chargers confidently, and we'll see. Maybe Bo Nix has a good game, but I think this is going to be a game for J.K. Dobbins and the Chargers running back room. They're going to rebound and get over 500 at 4-3. Moving on here, we have the Seahawks and the Bills, another top 5 game of the week. Both of these teams can score a lot of points when they're going. I have more question. I think the difference here is that the defenses, right? I think Buffalo's defense, I trust them against the run. I trust their front seven. Their secondary has some question marks, but I don't really trust Seattle's defense really at all. I think this game gets high scoring because I think Seattle's passing game is going to have some opportunities against Buffalo's secondary. I think Seattle's going to be able to move the ball well, or move the ball somewhat well. They're definitely going to move the ball or find some touchdowns in some possessions. But I think Buffalo's defense gets more stops than Seattle's does. I think Amari Cooper keeps asserting himself as their number one, and Seattle's rush defense really isn't that good. And I think Buffalo has shown that they're willing and able to run the ball, and I think that's exactly what happens here. It sets up Josh Allen nicely, and I think Buffalo scores a lot of points. This game could be a shootout, a battle of 2 first-place teams. I just think Buffalo is also all around better and playing better right now. And Buffalo wins this game. I think it could be close, but I think Buffalo have more ways to win than Seattle. I think Seattle has to win this game in a shootout. I give Seattle like a 25 to 30% chance to win. Really, I'll settle on 30% chance to win. So I'm picking Bills. Commanders, Bears, the number 1 versus the number 2 overall picks. 2 teams that are playing better than some people thought they would. Have been critical of the Bears and their schedule. The Ravens, I'm not as critical of. They have played some good teams. They've played some good teams close. I still don't think they've played it. I don't think the Ravens have won against any great teams, just like the Bears. I believe in the Commanders much more than I believe in the Bears, though. The Commanders' defense is getting better every week. Who would have thought with a defensive head coach that would happen? And as long as that Commanders' defense is playing better, I think the Commanders are going to play better. The Bears do have a good defense, but the Commanders' offense has looked so good, so good early on, and I think that keeps happening. I think that I think the second-round pick at home is going to do better than the first-round pick. I think Jaden Daniels has a better game than Caleb Williams, for those of you who didn't get what I was saying. And I think the Commanders pick up a win to move to 6-2 and stay first place in their division. And I think the Bears, I haven't looked at their schedule. I don't think they're a 4-2 team. I think they're a below 500 team. I think they might end up at 8-9 because they're start, but I think they're more of like a 6-11, 7-10 team. Again, I don't know their schedule. Remember their schedule off the top of my head. I think it's a little bit easier because where they finished last year. I do think those losses are coming, especially when they play their divisional opponents. They'll definitely pick up some losses. I think the Bears' record is a little bit inflated. I believe in the Commanders more. Commanders pick the win up at home. Broncos and Panthers, not a lot to say here. I've already talked about the Broncos a little bit. Ball control football in some ways. They're going to run the ball well. They're going to play good defense. Panthers absolutely suck. They're on the road. Panthers are the worst team in the NFL, I think. I think I'm comfortable saying that. They're going to go on the road to Denver, play at Mile High. Denver should win this game easily. They just beat up on the Saints. I think they're going to beat up on another NFC South team in the Panthers. I don't know, 30 something to single digits. Again, I think is what we're heading for, somewhere in that range. Maybe Bo Nix has a good day against the Panthers secondary. I think if I'm Sean Payton, I keep running the ball first with Javonte Williams. I think he's sometimes an underappreciated back in the NFL. But yeah, Broncos win in a landslide. Not a whole lot to say. Panthers suck. I guess that's really what the theme of this is. And I mean, a win would put the Broncos at 5-3. Are they actually that good? I don't know. Like, I think head to head, I think head to head, there's a couple of teams behind them in the playoff chase that they lose. But if you don't have to play them, you don't have to play them. All you can do is beat the teams on your schedule. Moving on, Raiders and Chiefs, another really bad team that's kind of waving the white flag on the season against the undefeated Super Bowl champions. Maybe this is a get right game for the Chiefs, and not maybe. I think this is a get right game. Like I said, DeAndre Hopkins' first game for the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes coming off of a bad game. He's not having a season up to his standards. I think this is a game where the Chiefs offense figures it out, and the Raiders offense isn't that good, and the Chiefs defense is good. So probably not a lot of points coming from the Raiders. I think this game is another blowout. Seems like we have a lot of good versus bad team matchups this week, so might have a lot of blowouts. If you look at your fantasy team, you might want to make sure that you got the right players in, because there's probably guys that are going to have some really good fantasy weeks. But with all that said, again, Raiders not good, Chiefs are good. I think the Raiders, they don't like the Chiefs, so maybe they hang around for a little bit. I just don't see a way that the Raiders win this game, especially because I don't think they're going to be able to score enough. My official prediction is obviously the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs offense gets right. Maybe I think DeAndre Hopkins might see his first touchdown as a Chief. Moving on to the next game. Sunday Night Football, classic rivalry. It's bring the 90s back, bring the last couple of years back. 49ers, Cowboys. I don't think these teams like each other. They've been towards the top of their conference the last couple years. 49ers desperately need a rebound. Going to 3-5 could be disastrous with them because of the pace some of the other teams are setting in the conference. Cowboys, a win puts them at 4-3. A loss puts them at 3-4. Both of these teams third place in their division. I don't know. This is a tough one because both of these teams are struggling. Both of them have some important injuries. The Cowboys are at least coming off of a bye. I keep wanting to say I think San Francisco is really good, but then they have all of these injuries. But I don't think Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan have two bad games in a row. I think the 49ers win it at home. They've had the Cowboys number as of late. And while they're a little bit more banged up than the Cowboys are, and the Cowboys have had 2 weeks to game plan, I just think the 49ers figure out a way to win this game because they have to. I think they send the Cowboys to below 500. Close, though. I do think this is a close game. I think this might be a game of desperation. That's why I have it game of the week. There's some other games that might be a little bit better. There's a lot of old school classic rivalry. Both of these teams, like I said, have been arguably the class of the conference the last couple of years. It's a little bit bitter between them, so I think this could be a really chippy game, a really good game. From that kind of perspective, from a historical perspective, and so I'm going to go ahead and give it the game of the week in my top 5 games. Moving on to Monday Night Football, last game of the week, and it's not going to be a pretty Monday Night Football game. Steelers have been playing really well. It looks like Russell Wilson in his first game might have the offense working for the Steelers really well. The Giants offense has been struggling, and they get no reprieve with a really, really good Steelers defense. They'll be lucky to get a touchdown off the Steelers defense. I think the Giants defense has been good at times. Maybe the Steelers struggle for a little bit. I don't know if I see that happening. I'm just saying it's a possibility. I think the Steelers get a lead early and it just gets bigger. They're at home, prime time. Like I said, offense played well last week. I don't have any reason to believe it's not going to be as good this week, and the Giants aren't going to be able to score. Yet again, another blowout game, I think, is what we're heading for here. So I'm going to pick the Steelers by a lot. Here is what I do every week, a summary of my picks. Who knows? Are we going to have our fourth 12-win week of the season? We have a full slate this week. There's no bye weeks this week, so there are 16 games, all 32 teams playing. A couple of these picks I'm feeling nervous about, but that's every week, right? So if you need a summary of my picks, here they are. Again, do not bet on them. I'm not betting on them myself. I don't want anybody to gamble. As you can see here, I did switch the Bucks and Falcons. Sometimes I'm recording, and then when I go to do my summary, or when I put together this page, I change it. All the other games have stayed the same. I think I'm going to go with the Falcons. I really, really, really want to pick the Bucks at home, but I don't know if they're going to win this game without Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. I think that maybe they score a little bit, but I think the Falcons are going to win. But again, here are the summary of my picks. Please do not bet with them. I do not gamble myself, so I'm not gambling on them. Neither should you. But yeah, let's hope I have the third straight 12-win week and we keep the momentum going. Thank you, everybody, for taking time out of your week to listen. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please like, comment, and subscribe. That's the best way you can help me as a listener. If you want to support the podcast, go tell somebody to watch it. Go share it with your friends. Share it on your social media. Come follow me on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, on at Ben_sports. Everybody, please have a great rest of your week. Peace.